Hey guys, Saf coming at you with another DragonHeir video. Today's video, I want to talk about some rare champions that are absolute MVPs for taking on some of the grave dungeons that you will need to farm for gear in this game. Often people will navigate naturally towards legendary champions, but DragonHeir has some very powerful rares that can unlock the higher difficulties so you can farm legendary gear. Now, before we get started on that video, just want to talk about the current event that is going on right now in DragonHeir. We have a collaboration, an Infernal and Twinkle event that is going on right now where you can get yourself Drizzt Event, which is a character from the Dungeons and Dragons universe. I think it's from Neverwinter. Pretty cool hero here. I've actually got my Drizzt. I haven't invested in him just yet because I'm trying to think of a team to build him around. And I want to play test him, have a look and figure out if he's going to be any good for any of my teams in particular. But we do have him. He looks very cool. He brings his ally, DragonHeir, which I cannot say these names properly. Pretty cool kit. Does a lot of damage. Very good for the boss Urtu as well if you're using him for that area. So I've managed to get my Drizzt in my previous video. I am still chasing some extra little things you can get from this this event as well. So one of the things you can get if you complete all of the demon hunts is you can get yourself a customizable D20 dice. You'll use this a lot in the game when you're rolling different effects, and it's quite cool to have like a different appearance to it. I'm also trying to get enough daggers so that I can exchange a few extra things in the token shop here. I would really like the D4 dice, and I might try to get the Heliolite dice potentially if I can farm enough extra of these. So there's lots to do in the event. You can also take on the boss Urtu, which has been done extremely well. This is a daily encounter. You can challenge him. You can head over to this area, get yourself some extra dice, and get yourself some Weir Marrow and daggers. The event is running for 6 days from when I'm recording this, so I think it ends at the end of the month in November. So make sure you get all of your dice in there. Make sure you go to the Planeswalker summoning and try and get the enough you need. You need around about 20 to 30 Heliolite dice. So if you'd saved up like I had, it was pretty straightforward. It's pretty accessible, so it's a pretty good deal. So that is going on at the moment. But the main topic of today's video is looking at the grave dungeons. You'll unlock these dungeons pretty early in the game story, and you've got the Grave of Venom where you can get basically gear that is your damaging gear sets. There's 4 different legendary sets, there's 3 different epic, and there's obviously 1 rare. But as you climb the difficulties, you really want to get access to these legendary sets. Some of them are very powerful. This one ignores 18% of the enemy's defense. This one can give you 30% damage boost after you use your ultimate ability. We also have one here that deals damage based on enemy max HP, which is excellent against bosses. And finally, we also have this sort of extra healing when you deal an attack if you don't want to run a healer. We have that one. We also have Grave of Curse, which gives you 2 different tank sets at legendary, 2 different epic sets, and 1 rare set. Again, very strong, able to absorb some of the damage your team takes or heal after you use your ultimate ability. And finally, we also have sort of unlocked a little bit later on in the story the Grave of Rot, which gives you the accuracy and the utility sets, the skill haste. So we get 2 legendary, 2 epic, and a single. So really what you want to do is trying to get and unlock these legendary artifacts, because this legendary gear will give you far more stats. So what I want to talk about is 3 rare champions that I'm using in each dungeon. 1 rare champion per dungeon that is absolutely MVP, that if you're struggling to progress will help you tremendously. So we're going to start at Grave of Curse. Grave of Curse is very important for tank sets and is quite a structured battle. There's the way that the boss is going to work is he gives himself buffs, and if he deals lots of damage, he gives himself a shield. So the goal that you have when you're building a team is to prohibit the buff placements, because this will do a lot of damage, in order to reduce the incoming damage, and then also try to mitigate the potential shield he generates, which is going to extend the battle. So the team that I'm using here is a standard sort of attack-based team, and then we have these solutions. So we're using Sigrid and we're using Tonalnan for basically some damage mainly. Sigrid is pretty good for damage reduction as well, because she has an attack penalty on the ultimate skill. But the MVP of this particular dungeon is Grover, because what Grover is going to do every time he uses his ultimate ability, he's going to steal a random buff from the enemy, and he attacks 2 times. The boss will place 2 buffs on himself, so he can basically permanently keep the buffs away. We're then using Adolphus, which can be any shield champion you want, but I'm using Adolphus because if you have a shield on your team, when the boss deals damage, the damage the boss does to the shield doesn't contribute to the actual shield he gets when he deals damage, right? When he uses his ultimate ability, he converts damage he deals to a shield. Or when you attack a shield, only the sort of the damage he takes off your actual health bar will go to this shield. So we can see here I've got a standard gear layout. This thing is very cool if you're not using it. You can configure the exact layout you want and then just go load so that we go back to where we wanted to go. So we can just set this up here and we can basically then set some skill timings. So what I have done to make sure that Grover doesn't run ahead of himself, which can happen because Grover has a A2, which does have a chance of stealing ultimate energy, which would mean that he speeds ahead of this. What you don't want to happen is he uses his ultimate ability before the boss has actually placed the buffs back on himself, which he does every 6 seconds. So we want to make sure that the boss has the buffs before we steal it. So we're going to set some constants here. So you can see I'm delaying his first usage till 12 seconds, and then I'm only allowing him to use his ultimate every 18 seconds. That way, even though he's got his ultimate ability back, he's not able to do it until the buffs are on the target. We're using an alternating strategy here to basically force Frubarth to do his ultimate ability after Sigrid, so that we have an attack penalty up all the time. And then just like we are using with Grover, we want the shield to be up just before the boss uses his ultimate ability, so we're staggering and delaying this here as well. So we can see how it's going to work. That shield, damage done. He kind of tickles the Grover a little bit, so we get a very small shield. But the skill timing setup is very important to make this work because you want the consistency here of Grover always using his ability when he does that. You've got to be a bit careful with Adolphus. He likes giving ultimate energy to some people, so that is a bit of a frustrating thing. That's why these skill timings are set up to make sure you have this set above decrease attack on all the time, removing the buffs on exactly when you want to, and the shield going up just before the boss takes some damage. So that is the first rare. That is an absolute MVP. If you have got the chest from the battle pass that gives you a free rare and you don't have Grover and you're struggling in Grave of Curse, Grover is the way to go, in my opinion. Especially if, like me, you're not rich with legendary champions. I have only got about 4 legendary champions, so I have to look outside of the legendary champion pool. That is my best time running that as well. So we can basically sell that off because we have accelerated past. Getting this craftable gear is very good. This is where you start pushing up to those higher difficulty content areas. So the next rare I want to talk about is for the Grave of Rot dungeon. Now we're at stage 7 here. The way that Grave of Rot works is he puts lots of poisons out. Those poisons, the recharge and speed penalties, healing reductions, it makes it very hard to sustain. He also consumes your tank, which can heal, so you need to bring heal reduction as well. So the way you really need to deal with this is to get rid of those debuffs, either by blocking them or by cleansing them, and you also need heal reduction, and then you need to survive. As you can see here, we've got the adjustment of the equipment plan. I haven't actually saved anything here, so we can just save an equipment plan in here of what we've currently got and then reuse them. We have Etchus in here as well as a secondary option, but I actually need to re-gear her because I haven't run this dungeon in a couple of days. So the rare that I want to talk about for this particular one is Fitz. He's an absolute monster for this particular grave dungeon, because what he's going to do when he uses his ultimate ability, he's going to transfer all of the debuffs from all of your team onto himself. He's also then going to be able to take less damage for the number of debuffs that he steals to himself, so it keeps him tanky. He also has the ability to randomly dispel one born debuff as well. So what we're using him for is to drain all of the poisons onto himself, and then it keeps your team alive. And you can use someone like Hexandra to be able to dispel debuffs and various different things. I've put him in a a set which actually allows him to heal when he uses his ultimate ability as well. So if he is lowering his HP, he's losing too much HP, he can hopefully recover himself. And we're also taking the Spiritual Incest Burner because this will hopefully return some of his ultimate energy. So really, we just want to get back around to this ultimate energy every single time, his ultimate ability. And again, the same setup. We're using Frubath and Sigrid to set up the decrease attack. We're actually using HS here as another sort of cleanser as well. We get a chance to dispel one debuff just in case there's any problems in timings. We also put a nice recharge and speed penalty on the boss. And again, we've got her in the Crown of the Unclean, so we get the decreased defense. So in this one here, we've got to set up the skill configuration to make sure that Fitz is going to cleanse at the right time. We need to make sure that Fitz is going to use this ability after we've had a poison spray. And then we want to make sure that Hexandra is not going to heal before that point. Because if Hexandra heals before the sort of cleanse, then everyone's got heal reduction and we don't get any healing. We're alternating the the Sigrid and the Frubath again, and then Etchus is just here. The good thing about Etchus as well, she's providing a second form of heal reduction alongside Sigrid, so that if the boss is eating our tank, he's not healing from the effect. So we can start this up here. You'll see how this is going to work now when it comes into the battle. The first ability is going to dump a load of heal reduction and poisons on us. On the back line, here we go, and then Fitz is going to come in and he's just going to cleanse all of it away onto himself, and then we're going to heal up. So it doesn't really matter that Fitz has got heal reduction, because every time he uses his ultimate ability, he's going to heal a huge chunk, and he's sitting next to Frubath here, who's going to heal him as well in his pool. So as long as your Fitz is tanky enough, he should be able to deal with having one heal reduction. The key thing is keeping the debuffs off your team, cleanse it away, then Hexandra will heal everyone to make sure we're fully up and running, and Fitz will often heal before he eats the heal reduction as well. That's why I put the ultimate, the legendary set for the self-heal on ultimate usage, just in case he needs a bit more healing support. So you can see the skill setup is set up here. We transfer it across. And as long as we continue to transfer the heal reduction away, Hexandra will heal the team, and this team should never fail. As long as your Fitz can stay alive. But that's why having someone with like an extra debuff is handy, so that we can get rid of some of these effects. Another debuff is gone. So you can see here when he heals, he's going to basically fully heal, even though he has heal reduction. So that is how this Fitz will work in this team. And this should be able to farm at least stage 7 or stage 8 for you and get you all the way up. Having heroes at 100 is a big help. You can see my Hexandra at the moment is built probably above and beyond stage 7 at this point, as I've started using her in other high-end content. But this Fitz guy is just incredible for this job. If you don't have champions like Catherine and these other heroes that can basically put debuff immunity up, then just being able to eat those debuffs, put it on himself, and keep the team absolutely clear on an ultimate ability for a rare champion is brilliant. Is an excellent, excellent option. And there we go. The boss is defeated. We've done it in around about 2 minutes 40. It's just under my, or 2 minutes 50, just under my best, just over my best time. Again, we'll probably sell the rare because I don't personally need the rare gear, but we're getting these legendary crafting materials that we can take to the camp and craft up some of our gear, which is really, really important. And these sets are really good for skill, haste, and accuracy resistance more often than not. The two epic sets are really good for just trying to get some raw secondary stats that you need out of your builds. The final rare I want to talk about is technically a grave dungeon, but it's not by name. It is Ancient Battlefield. Ancient Battlefield is where you will farm your negative runes, which you get when you upgrade a hero to rank 5. They are very important to your build. You can see here I've got a few negative runes on my Tonalnan here for some attack bonuses. We've got a very powerful one here, attack 335, gives you more attack speed, it gives you more skill haste. These runes are very powerful, but the Ancient Battlefield is actually quite a tough encounter. And the one rare champion that I would highly recommend people look to invest in is Jirana. Because the way that this boss is going to work is going to change forms constantly. And there's some technical things you need to understand. Firstly, he's going to get himself buffs. You really don't want him to have the buffs. Those will do lots of damage. You also don't want to have buffs in your team. Because if you have buffs in your team, he will steal those buffs for a permanent damage bonus. So the team shouldn't have any buffs. You're approaching this a similar way to the way you've approached Grave of Curse, where you want to use shields, because shield is not counted as a buff, to try and mitigate some of the incoming damage. And then he'll attack someone who is on the furthest away from him, at the furthest at the back of your team. And if you are able to resist that, he will send back backfire, which reduces the damage he deals and increases the damage he takes. So you can see I've got a very high resist Hexandra at the back of my line. He'll try to stun Hexandra, fail, and then receive backfire. So we reduce the incoming damage. Then similar strategies, we're using Sigrid decrease attack with Frubath decrease attack to set this up. We're using Adolphus for shields. But what makes Jirana really good is her passive ability, where every third basic attack she will dispel a buff on the target, but she also provides accuracy penalty, which means to be able to resist is much easier. That's the key thing here. So Jirana's set up in here for this ability, and you do get a secondary shield that you can stagger with Adolphus. You'll see when we load this up here, we're just going to load in our plan so we get back to our gear. You'll see when we actually load this up, essentially how much damage we take. You can choose to take an Accuracy Aura if you want. I've actually got quite a lot of accuracy here, but Sigrid is a little bit low, so we will use the Accuracy Aura. And you'll see that the boss does quite a lot of damage. At times it gets scary, but this is pretty okay to farm here. So there's that resist. The backfire icon is on, and you can see the buffs are going up, but every so often these buffs will fall off as Jirana does basic attacks. So building your Jirana with high amounts of attack speed is very important here. She's less important about the skills, more important about her attack speed. That is the most important thing you want to have. As much attack speed as you can, because every third basic attack she'll remove a buff, and the boss can basically never kill you then, because with the backfire on, that's 20% damage reduction, also no buffs, and a decreased attack, you should be able to tank this out with your shields. So here you can see the buffs go on. She's going to do a bonus shield there that I've staggered with Adolphus, and the buff has gone off again. And we're constantly getting backfire because we have decreased accuracy down to stop that stun happening as well. So that is the third rare that I would recommend if you are struggling with Ancient Battlefield. Jirana, absolute great. Fit, absolute great for Temple, for the Grave of Rot, and for Grave of Curse, Grover. You can actually get away with using Jirana instead of Grover on the Grave of Curse as well, but you do lose the ultimate energy stealing, and the decreased accuracy is far less valuable. You would be able to stagger your shield, but you really just want one shield champion in there. So I do feel like Grover is a little bit better for the Grave of Curse. You can see it does get a little bit scary at times when the situation is just like Sigrid does take a fair bit of damage. It can get a little bit scary, but so far my stage 8 has been pretty stable. Stage 9 is still a little bit beyond my gear. I need to basically get a bit more damage reduction and a bit better tanking gear essentially for that. Probably a little bit better enlightenment gear for Adolphus as well. So let's let this run through and we'll see how long it takes. So there falls my shield is amazing boss, as I like to call him, because his shield is fantastic. 3 minutes 38. I'm doing it about 3 minutes, a little bit slower. But these negative runes are very important for your builds. That is the area that I'm trying to improve on. You can see majority of damage is all coming from Sigrid. Let's just go through the builds quickly to kind of show you how I've built them for these particular runs that I've been successful. I'm not going to look at all the heroes because that could take a while. But in terms of Jirana here, we can go to her build. I basically got her around about 49,000 HP, 1,644 defense, 2,200 attack. But you can see I've got 40 skill haste and attack interval. So I'm looking for, on her gear here, I'm looking for basically attack speed. Attack speed. These are the pieces that I'm looking for. Technically, I shouldn't have skill haste. I should really be looking for attack speed, not skill haste. In terms of the artifact, I've gone from the Silver Star Shoehorn, which means whenever she launches a basic attack, she's got a 20% chance of gaining attack speed. So the idea is, can we get the attack interval down as low as we can, so this is just as consistent as it can. That's the build that I've got her in. Make sure you get enough accuracy to do what you need to do against the level that you're fighting. 287 is probably more aligned with stage 9 rather than stage 8. Now let's have a look at fits. Now you might be noticing, why am I going to the dungeon to look at it? I'm using a lot of the same gear on a lot of my heroes. You can see, look, it's basically saying these are missing from this hero. All of this is missing from this hero. Mainly because I am using different gear sets, but I'm using the same gear on multiple heroes. So I'll go farm Grave of Rot, load up my gear, use it, then I'll go farm another one, load it up, because it's free to gear swap, so it doesn't cost you anything. It's a really good system. Probably too good, I would argue. But for this system here, we've got Fitz. Fitz is built in exactly the same gear. He's at 51,000 HP, 1,378 defense. He is at around about 78 enlightenment. I think that's just because he has a bonus enlightenment in his gear. We don't need enlightenment here. He's got a little bit of skill haste, attack interval of 1.79, and really resistance accuracy. You could build him in high resist if you want to, so therefore, but he's going to be taking debuffs anyway, so it doesn't really matter. The goal is just keeping him alive. So we've put him in the Radiance of the Blue Oak. I haven't even finished upgrading the gear, probably because I ran out of gold. But this heals the hero after they unleash their ultimate skill by 20% of their max HP. and he's getting a bunch of healing. This is where the enlightenment's coming from. So really you can see I've just kind of like looked for ways to make him tanky. We've gone from a defense positive rune and a HP negative rune. I probably would look to move him up to one of these HP positive runes now rather than a defense, but you can always adjust it. But this build works absolutely fine for the stage 7 that I showed. And finally for Grover here, we have got him in this particular build here. We did have the Crown of the Unclean on him so that we get the defense debuff. He's at 43,000 HP, 2,600 attack, 1,449 defense. We've got 73 enlightenment. Again, he doesn't really gain any benefits from enlightenment. It's just there because we've probably got some enlightenment on set bonuses that are probably not optimal. We've got him with a little bit of crit written damage, but probably you'd want him to just be more tanky. He's not really there to do damage. Again, enough accuracy for the stage you're at. This is probably aiming at stage 9 as well. Skill haste would be helpful on him, but it doesn't really matter too much as long as you're able to keep at the pace that you want, right? Ideally, you want this to be at around about no more than sort of 16, 17 seconds. So outside of that, you don't really need any skill haste. It's mainly keep him alive, get the accuracy in there, and then you can see I've got a new sort of negative rune I've been farming. Accuracy here, this is why the negative rune is really good for those. And again, I could probably look at putting him in towards a defense or a higher quality as I farm more of the heretical ruins. The Crown of the Unclean is important because this rolls on every attack. So if you've got heroes that attack multiple times, like he basically attacks two times, it basically means that there's 2 attempts to place the decreased defense. It's much more consistent. So that is how I've built Grover for this. Now, if you started on a server that launched during global launch, the Drizzt Dungeons & Dragons collaboration event will be coming to an end today. But if you have just started the game or you want to get into the world of DragonHeir, then you can click on the link in my description below and download the game. And if you choose one of the new servers, you'll be able to play the event for 14 days. Now, DragonHeir is a very fun game. It's an open world RPG kind of inspired by tabletop RPG elements like we see in things like Dungeons and Dragons, so it makes sense why they've collaborated. It's had a hugely successful launch. It has had over 10 million downloads worldwide, and it has secured top spot in 10 regions since its launch. It's going from strength to strength. We're coming into the end of the current season now in the last month, so there'll be a seasonal reset and we'll have a whole new world to explore at the end of December. So keep coming back to learn more about how that's going to work. As a reminder as well, you can play in multiple different platforms. You can download it from Epic Game Store. You can download it directly on Windows. You can download it now through Steam. You can get it on Android, iOS, all mobile platforms, and all of your progress can be linked to the account and you can carry that across all the platforms. So if you do want to get involved, you want to start, you still want to play the Drizzt event, click on the link in my description below, download the game, get started in DragonHeir. But I will catch you guys in the next video.